My name's Chris. I want to thank you for taking the time to listen to my presentation. Today we will be covering creating methodology in project management. Project management is a structured process of planning, executing, monitoring, and completing specific objectives within the defined constraints of time, cost, quality, and scope. It plays a crucial role in achieving organizational goals by transforming strategic ideas into actionable outcomes. And that is the key right there. Transforming strategic ideas into actionable outcomes. At the core of project management lies the project life cycle or life cycle, which is a sequence of phases of the project process through initiation to closure. While project management is not confined to the management of single projects within an organization, a better approach to managing multiple projects across global span is through EPM, which is Enterprise Project Management. This preparation will compare the life cycle to the case study and explore the enterprise project management so that we can gain a better understanding. The life cycle and phase definitions. So the life cycle is feasibility, design, build, test, deploy, and finally close. Let's take a closer look at some of these. So the feasibility cycle or phase looks at things to determine if the business case is valid and if the organization has the capacity to deliver the intended outcome. Design. Design is the plan and analysis that leads to designing the project's deliverables that will be deployed. We now look at the build cycle. So it looks at the construction of the deliverables with integrated quality assurance activities. Then we move on to test. This is the final quality review and inspection of deliverables before they are transitioned to the customers, meaning before they are given to the customers. If it's a product, it's given to the customers. If it's a service, it's also before it's given to the customers. Finally, we have deploy. Deploy looks at the deliverables and puts it into use and transitional activities required for sustainment, benefits, realization, and the organizational change management. At the end, we close the case. This is where the project is closed and the knowledge or artifacts gained from the project are archived and the project team members are released and the contract is closed. Case study. The case study we'll be looking at is about John. He's an executive of a company. He expressed that they are no longer competitive in the market because when he is submitting what's called requests for proposals, RFP, many of the people are requiring that they provide some project management methodology, which employees have been very reluctant to do. The reluctancy is mainly in probably giving up some power. Nevertheless, in response, John created a project management office, which ultimately concluded that they need a 6-cycle phase, an informal approach that uses forms, guidelines, checklists, templates, standard documents in accordance with the PM book guidelines. So one thing I want to look at, it's called Enterprise Project Management Methodology. So the Enterprise Project Methodology is a strategic and structuralized approach to managing multiple projects across the organization, ensuring they align with the overall business goals. They include resource management, schedule management, financial management, issues and risk management, time reporting, team collaboration, reporting and business intelligence, program management, and demand management. There are roughly 7 elements to the EPM, and those elements include risk analysis, structured estimating, project review, PM coaching, that's project management coaching, where you want to coach the other project managers and the people on the team. You have escalating issue management. You have time accounting, because time accounting is very important when you're dealing with a contract. And you also have the information system. That is where all the information is stored and how it is accessed. So one thing we want to do is we want to look at the PMO and the EPMO and compare some of the differences. So when we take the aspect of focus, we see traditional, we see, project specific, but when we look at the enterprise, we see the portfolio eccentric. So we're looking at the big overall picture instead of just the narrow focus. So we have scope. We have limited resources, but the enterprise is an integrated framework of different projects, different talents from around the world. We have decision making. We have a top-down decision making. Comes from the top down. However, in the enterprise, it's a collaborative system. It's a whole collaborative system. We see that a lot with telecommuting lately. We see that collaborative system working. Stakeholder interaction with the traditional project management office, it's very minimal, very minimal. But when we see the enterprise, we're talking about like comprehensive. It's different. It's big. A lot of stakeholders involved. So comparison of the life cycle and the case study. So the life cycle, as we talked about earlier, it's basically, your feasibility, design, build, test, deploy, and close. Depending on who's actually presenting the life cycle or performing activities regarding the project management, sometimes it differs a little bit, but ultimately this is a pretty good this is a pretty good rendering of it. Regarding the case study aligns with the PMO as it uses a 6-phase life cycle and an informal methodology that uses forms, guidelines, checklists, and templates. The case study also utilizes a set of standard documents in accordance with the information in the PM book guideline. This enables the PM to select the forms that work best for the project. The case study also uses the EPM system to capture best practices. So now let's look at critiquing the PMO structure, right? So the PMO structure, its strengths are that it's dedicated, it's a 5-step development plan, it's committed to flexibility. That's the PMO of the case study. Now, some of its weaknesses are that it lacks a strategic position. It's limited executive buy-in and cultural resistance. It's a 1-day training, which is insufficient, and it's an inadequate mechanism, right, for management. But let's take a much closer look at some of this. So, when you're getting a buy-in, right, it's very important in any change management to have that buy-in. If you don't have the buy-in of the employees, your project's pretty much going to fail. So it's very important to have this buy-in right here. All right, let's move on to the next one. Project management aspects unique to global organizations. So the aspects are cross-cultural communication. Unique to the global organizations is it requires culturally adaptive leadership and communication protocols in regards of time zone, disbursement, demands, asynchronous planning, and virtual teams. We see a lot of that with this commuting where, especially during the COVID, a lot of people, we had them moving to like Thailand, Mexico, and places like that. Mexico worked out a little bit better because it's pretty much in the same time zone as the US, where like Thailand, Vietnam, and places like that, it's a completely different time zone. It's day here, it's night over there. Makes things a little bit more difficult. We look at multi-level governance. where we got global governance consistent with regional flexibility. We got legal and regulatory complexities where it requires it like multi-jurisdictions, specific workflows and compliance tackling. We got global risk management, which involves geopolitical, financial, and cross-border supply chains. Conclusion. So I want to thank you for taking the time to allow me to make this small presentation to you. And I hope you enjoyed it. If I can answer any of your questions, please feel free to ask. Thank you very much for your time.